what does a successful future look like to you? If you're not there yet, what does a successful future look like?
I think it's exactly what I started with, by people recognizing that our proximity to problem is the biggest opportunity, and to be able to create a hub that allows people to feel safe enough and heard enough to be able to do that, and supported enough to be able to look around and say, Philippi Village is a place that I can come to, my kids can be running on the running track, my granny can be at the program for elderly women, my son can be in the garden, and if there's anything that affects me, Philippi Village has created an environment for us to reimagine what a solution looks like and be able to be equipped to deliver it ourselves.
Oh God, I love that so
That
much.
is beautiful.
I really do. Guys, can we get the hugest hell yeah ever?
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Hell yeah! Hello, 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 everybody. This show has been created to inspire you to take action,
Celebrating and reframing what success looks like.
to be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
And we have incredible speakers for you tonight.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Future Females Show. I'm Susanna Kennedy, and this is my lovely co-host, Lauren Dallas.
Yay! Hello, everyone. Thank you for the claps, live studio audience. And hello to everyone tuned in online. You know what this show is now about. It is all about celebrating and reframing success. And today we're digging into all different profitable types of business models that are available to you that not only drive wild profit, because who doesn't want that, but that also lets you design the life that you really want to live around it.
And I'm so excited. I really, really am so excited to have someone here who is creating impact, but also has a profit business model. For me, this is like the most exciting thing ever, because somebody who has a community center in Gugulethu and Nyanga can learn a lot from somebody like Bushra. Bushra, you are not only the CEO of Philippi Village, but you also are a published author. You've co-authored a number of books.
Over 9.
Over 9, but I think those were just the children's books, and I think there are other books that you've
How many
co-authored
books?
as well.
A few.
She's lost count. That's how many books. She's lost count. But you also really stand in your truth. I have now been speaking to lots of people about who you are, and you are authentic in what you do. You are not afraid of getting your hands dirty, getting in there and making it count, making the difference really happen. So I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Terrifying.
And there we go. The dramatic pause. Well, with all of this in mind, I mean, everything that I've just said, I think maybe we should start right at the beginning. What brought you to doing the work that you do?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me, and also thank you to my team who've come from Philippi and the other side to join here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, for me, my journey started quite young. My parents had an orphanage, so I grew up with 70 boys, the only female in the mix. But I was always incredibly interested in human rights, and especially the rights of the girl child. So when I was 12, I wrote an essay on human rights, and I was very lucky that it allowed me to interview some of my human rights heroes at the time. So it was the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, and I was invited to Hawaii for the Millennium Young People's Conference. So at 12, I got to travel to Hawaii and participate in this conference where young people from all over the world got together to write their version of the Millennium Development Goals and Agenda 21. So for me, it was fascinating, a young person from Ladysmith, KwaZulu-Natal, to be surrounded by 1,000 young people who were actively doing things in their community, whether it was at a household level or a school level. And so I knew immediately then that that's what I wanted to do. The direction has not changed since. It's always just taken on different elements, but that was the start. And since then, I worked for an organization called Peace Child, a youth-led development organization. So most of my primary school and all of my high school was traveling to different countries, just seeing how young people could take control of a narrative, do things at a hyper-local level to affect some kind of change. It was almost always passion-driven. But over the last couple of years, I also realized that it takes a lot more than just the passion. And I have spent the last couple of years trying to understand that and trying to figure out how to best marry the passion with the real life scenarios on the ground and the real life learnings to transform some of our programs into authentic change, so that we're not just saying it, but that it's visible. And I think the project I'm working on now, Philippi Village, is one of the most amazing examples of this.
Absolutely. And it really is one of the most amazing examples. When Susanna was like, oh, I've been put in touch with Bushra, she runs Philippi Village, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, please.
Yeah, Lauren literally was like, what? Yes, let's get her on.
I love the work that you do. I'm not sure if anyone's been to Philippi Village. Maybe just raise a hand if you have. Yes, you walk in, and I know you use the term business park, and we will get more into the business model, but from what I understand, it is a space that does so many things, but it's connected by this common ethos of empowerment and really bringing the community into creating a sustainable solution for themselves, which is something I'm super passionate about. We actually hosted a workshop in your space.
Yay! Hell yeah, right?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And it was, I think we were teaching 3D printing and design thinking to some of the community members. But in any case, can you share more about like the actual space and the business that you're running?
Sure. So Philippi Village is based in Philippi, one of the most under-resourced, violent, challenged communities. It is a business park. At least that's how our investor initially thought about it. So when he put money into purchasing it, it was an old abandoned cement factory that he's completely transformed. It's beautiful. You have to go and visit. So the initial idea was, how do we use this as a space to support small businesses? So on one hand, he had the container walk, which is a series of containers that was supposed to support small, these are his words, township enterprises, and then a more formal establishment for businesses as they grow. The idea was for the small businesses to migrate from the container walk into a more formal hub. But it didn't work. There was a lack of occupancy, people weren't able to stay in the space. And that's kind of where my journey at Philippi Village started. So Philippi Village started in 2015, and I started as CEO there in around 2019. So my job began because I was called in to mediate. Philippi Village is surrounded by a series of informal settlements, and some of the tenants who were based in Philippi Village were feeling a bit afraid. They had an idea that if they didn't have a wall around them, they wouldn't be safe. And as Philippi, or PV, was trying to put up this wall, they encountered lots of challenges from the community. Every time they put the wall up, community wanted to take the wall down. And so they called me in to mediate, and even the language and how it was positioned was incredibly problematic. These people are pulling the wall down, we need this up immediately. So I went in and I asked the community, why don't you want the wall up? And the response was, well, we don't have any toilets. So we use this land to relieve ourselves. And if you put the wall up, there's no place for us to go to the toilet. And it made me just sit back a little bit and go, we have no idea who our neighbors are. We're positioning ourselves as social impact. We're positioning ourselves as responsive to what community needs, yet we have no idea who our neighbors are. And it allowed me to begin a process of mapping. And I think we've come a long way since, but at that time it was paper-based. We had 30 young people with a series of questionnaires, handwritten, going from house to house. I think we did almost 600 homes. And we asked them everything from, what's your combined household income? Who's in your home? If you could have anything in a space like this, what would it be? And the results were phenomenal, because they were so far away from what I assumed was what was necessary in the area. So the first activity that I thought was really powerful around this mapping was it brought people together. So we did rebuild the wall, even though in my dream it's going to be temporary and we end up pulling it down again sometime. But we rebuilt the wall. We realized that for us to exist as a business, we have to leverage the power of cross-sector partnerships. We can't do it on our own. Who's responsible for toilets? Who's responsible for upkeep? What pressure do we have to put on private sector? What pressure do we have to put on government, on the city of Cape Town? So understanding what these partnerships look like, and we started the wall as sort of a catalyst for those kinds of discussions. We spent 2 weeks with a participatory art partner to discuss what Philippi meant to different people, and they came up with an incredible story that they painted along the wall. So the established artists did all of the outline of the graffiti, and then we pulled in different stakeholders to color it in. So you were suddenly forced to engage with each other and talk to each other as we put life into this wall. But it made us realize, number one, stakeholders hadn't engaged before. And in order for any business model to work, whether it's social impact or it's got a commercial bottom line, who are the stakeholders? Have you systematically identified who they are? Have you recognized what their proximity is to you or your idea? What do they want out of it? Where is the shared values? And how do you see that every stakeholder has something of value to give and start designing and creating around that?
I'm sure you have a lot more to share, but you've just made some really, really important points that I want to jump in on. And one of them is when you said we didn't even know who our neighbors are. And also, I mean, your neighbors really are your customers as well. And I think that's something so important. And also, your story is a really tangible example of how this should be done. We should be going door to door with surveys and in an online sense doing the same and really asking those questions. And then the second part of it, actually co-creating that wall. Again, what could be more powerful than that in designing your solution? So I think that's a hell yeah, guys.
It's a total hell yeah. Hell yeah.
To actually putting in that work, honestly.
Yeah, I love it. You know what's so great is that I'm seeing through lines of what I've been dealing with as well. So when I came to Pakama Community Centre, which is my community centre in Nyanga, I was producing a film. I had no intention of becoming a board member and then a trustee of a community centre, but I've always got this ethos that always leave places and people and situations better than they were before you arrived. If you can, do something about it. And so I'd spoken to my team, and again, like you, they said, no, they need a computer lab. Like, let's give them a computer lab. And I was like, okay. And I went and I spoke to the founder and I said, look, they would like to give you a computer lab. How do you feel about that? You know, would you like that? Do you think that would be useful? And she said, no. Like a flat no. And I said, really? No? She said, yes. She said, we need counselors though. That's what we need. Which is so simple, but just that speaking to and getting to know and getting to understand, I think it's so important. And you are known for doing that. You're now known for somebody who goes into communities and really asks those questions. And I think that if all businesses did just that, they would be ahead of the game already, if they just simply did that. So what is your strategy? You said you got a whole lot of people to go out and fill out forms. Is that what you do every time you go into a community? Or what is your strategy there? What advice could you give somebody else who wants to gain the knowledge from the community?
So for me, because I'm based in, my work is community-based, it's recognizing the proximity to problem as a huge opportunity to co-design and co-create and reimagine what a solution can look like. Because even after that mapping, if community members say, to your point, we want sports or we want greenery, what does that mean? So what we did after that was actively test these things out. If you came into our space at any given time, we were working with partners to test what sports means. Is it soccer? We tested everything from cycling to rock climbing to putt-putt to see, one, how people responded to it, two, what the design should look like. And for us, we're navigating multiple different questions daily. It's around access, it's around safety, it's around what does inclusion actually mean. So it's the testing element that I would recommend as the next step.
So we do a meeting every 2 years where the whole community comes and they fill out things and then give us their feedback. But it's that constant testing, isn't it? Because you can't just do it once or twice.
Absolutely.
Because needs change.
Every
all the time,
single day,
right?
and our team is testament to this. On one hand, we're planning moving forward and we have a strategy, but you never know what the next day is going to bring you. We're navigating constantly, whether it's taxi violence, protest action, service delivery, hijackings. At one stage, we were with our safety partners navigating a month where there were 34 hijackings in 1 month at the intersection that you have to drive through to enter the space. So how do you respond to it? One day during the day, it's a crisis response, but it has to feed into a bigger stakeholder engagement, stakeholder mapping. And some people who you don't think are affected are key to shifting what that solution looks like. And I think the safety one for us was a good example because we look at a hijacking at an intersection and we don't think that the informal traders have a role to play because perpetrators are running and hiding behind the stalls. So engaging with informal traders was something that shifted and reduced what hijackings could look like as just one stakeholder. So it's testing, it's responding daily, and it's always putting the community at the heart of what the solution looks like.
Absolutely. And so I understand that you're a grant-funded organization, like I'm sure, I know you're not a not-for-profit, but other not-for-profits, for example, us at Future Females, we rely heavily on grant funding to do the work that we do in a number of different emerging markets. But it's very hard to sell a vision when it's constantly changing. So how did you get that funder on board?
Our story is actually the other way around. We're not a community-based organization. We're not registered as a non-profit. We're registered as a company. And the company wasn't working. So we had to rely on the community to enable the commercial success. The company wasn't working because no one was occupying space. No one was able to pay rent. It was incredibly unsafe. So as a business model inside a community situation, we were almost working against the commercial outcome. We had to recognize what does the community need and the social need, and then how can we bring tenants and investors in that have an interest in that area but can't do it without a space like Philippi Village. Whether it is a water-related issue, a sanitation, a hygiene-related issue, now we're offering a business park that is safe and secure with the right data, the right team, and now bringing in investment, bringing in community-based responses. It's almost impossible to do a business park in the middle of Philippi that's focused on community-based outcomes. But it's an upside-down model, but again, showing that commercial outcome can come as a result of a community-first approach.
I love that. I really, really love that. I think for people who have never been there or never looked it up, can you just paint a picture of what Philippi Village looks like and what happens there?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like I said, it's an old cement factory. You drive in and you're just confronted with a combination of design, art, concrete, and community. So we've taken the space and we've pulled it apart and designed, again, response to who our users are, so that it's a place that's inspirational. You will find a skate park, a five-a-side football pitch, a community cinema, a sewing school, a state-of-the-art sound studio, a micro farm. And coincidentally, the micro farm is run by the three brothers who I initially engaged with when I was trying to put the wall up. So 2 years later, they have 500 chickens, all female. The male chickens didn't make the cut.
We like to hear that.
Multiple eventing. Our events manager is here with us, and she runs community-based events and then commercial events. So every day is a mix between how do you balance the commercial output with the community. It's beautiful, multiple graffiti pieces. I don't know if I'm missing anything, but it's really is a sorry, Michelle. Michelle runs an amazing coffee shop. It's run by 6 women from Philippi who have done their barista training, and they're running the coffee shop themselves. Came up with the logo, came up with the name. So it's a multi-use space that's kind of designed to be multi-purpose. How can a running track be a way to improve surveillance and security, and at the same time be a space that allows exercise and well-being? Yeah.
And that's a lot of stuff.
It's so much. It's so wonderful, though. It's so exciting to me hearing that you've got so many different things happening in one space, because that's exactly my vision, is to have, and the community's vision, to have so many things happening in one space. And I often feel like I overwhelm people when I sit with them and I tell them my vision, because I have to speak solidly for a good 10 to 20 minutes. This is what we're doing. And there's all of these things. How do you manage that? When you're speaking to somebody that you want to bring on board as a partner, as an investor, as a collaborator, whatever it is, how do you not overwhelm them with such a huge vision?
I think it's listening, because we have so many stories to tell, so many different narratives, and we respond in so many different ways. And it's trying to understand that as much as we want something out of an investor, we have to demonstrate a return on that, whether it's commercial, whether we understand return in different ways. So I generally, if I'm pitching an idea or a concept, it actually is about talking a little bit less for me. It's understanding what drives an investor, what are they interested in, what is their passion, and seeing which elements of what we do overlap, and then speaking to that and designing to that.
I think that's such excellent advice for any business owner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on something you said, and you've touched on it now, but we were speaking about it just before, which is achieving impact by focusing on the commercial outcomes. And you're doing a lot, and you've probably tried way more than that. So can you give us a summary of some insights around what's worked and what hasn't?
I mean, I have so many of these examples throughout my life, not just at Philippi Village, but I think one example that always resonates with me, although it was pre-Philippi Village, I think it's a good example, if you're okay with me sharing it.
Yes. Well, we don't know what it is yet. Please do.
And it's the team that reminded me of it. I was working in Kenya before I came to South Africa, and I was working for a carbon offsetting company. And we were designing energy-efficient cook stoves to respond to the carbon credit requirements. And I'd spent so much time trying to work with community members to design these energy-efficient stoves for big companies for them to offset. And I thought I'd nailed it. Like, each community had different stoves based on the height. Do people sit when they cook? Do they sit outdoors? Do they sit indoors? We'd thought it through with engineers, and I was loving life. And then I got a phone call to say in one of the communities, almost 2,000 stoves were destroyed. Oh, wow. That's a massive challenge across the board. And when we went to go investigate further around these stoves, it turned out that the serial number that we'd written on those particular stoves were written in red, which in that community was a sign of devil worship. And so when women were getting up in the morning and the cement had dried and they were getting ready to cook, we have this red writing that scared them. And they broke it. And it took the project back significantly. And so for me, that was a very great example of how we are all part of a broader ecosystem. We're all stakeholders in an idea or a concept, whether we want to admit it or not. And the more we understand about what our relationship is as stakeholders and our proximity, again, to the idea or the product or what it is that you want to sell or share, the better it is to reduce risk, to reduce friction, to improve relationships. And that's a community-based result that had a huge commercial impact.
Yeah, that's
that
huge.
That is just amazing. But also, I was trying to think about what color the writing on my stove is. I don't think I've ever been close enough to read it. But that is such a beautiful example. And
it is. No, it is. It really, really is. I know there's so much. I mean, when we spoke, I'm so glad you're here, first of all. Like, yay that you're here. When we spoke, you really made it clear to me that this is something that is in process. Lauren and I spoke and we were like, oh my gosh, it's such a success. This is amazing. We've got to get her on the show. And when we spoke, you were like, no, we're in progress. We're not there yet. So I want to ask you two questions. The one is because I think personally that you've achieved so much. You really, really have. And I want to acknowledge that because it's so important. As you all know, one of the things that Lauren and I love is to say, celebrate yourselves, for what you have achieved. It's so, so important. So what is the thing that you are most proud of that has occurred since you started this project? Or maybe even in your life?
I think for this project, it has been... Sorry, thank you.
It's okay.
I think on this project, it has been working in an environment where almost everyone says that they're doing things. Almost everyone has got a story to tell about what social transformation looks like and what social impact looks like. And I think the thing that makes me most proud and inspired to go back the next day is that it truly is at the heart of what the team and myself are doing. Even if you look at a graffiti pillar on a wall, we know the story behind it. We know that whether we've made some mistakes along the way, the intention has been to be true to what we say we do. So I'm proud of that, and I'm proud for our team and our community for always putting that at the heart of what we do.
And the second part of the question is what does a successful future look like to you? If you're not there yet, what does a successful future look like?
I think it's exactly what I started with, by people recognizing that our proximity to problem is the biggest opportunity, and to be able to create a hub that allows people to feel safe enough and heard enough to be able to do that, and supported enough to be able to look around and say, Philippi Village is a place that I can come to. My kids can be running on the running track. My granny can be at the program for elderly women. My son can be in the garden. And if there is anything that affects me, Philippi Village has created an environment for us to reimagine what a solution looks like and be able to be equipped to deliver it ourselves.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
That is beautiful.
I really do. Guys, can we get the hugest hell yeah ever?
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah!
Thank you.
I want to give a massive shout out to your team as well.
Yeah,
they're
Thank
amazing.
you all for
Thank
coming
you.
and for the role that you've played in all of this as well. Really, really commending you. And Bushra, I mean, you said you were terrified, but when you're speaking about something you love, we can all feel it. I actually feel a little emotional. I'm so excited for you and everything that's coming.
Thank you for creating a safe space to allow conversations like this. Some people are terrified. You make it a little bit easier. So thank you very, very
Absolutely
much.
a pleasure. I'm so glad that you came. I'm really so glad that you came. And thank you to everyone here in the studio, and thank you to everyone at home watching. I can't wait to come and visit Philippi Village, and I hope you guys do too, and go and check it out. And we'll see you again soon. See you soon.
Thank you.